Hello wonderful people, welcome to SFC and you're welcome to another tutorial. So guys, in today's tutorial I'm going to be taking you along how I make this very beautiful shawl collar jacket, and it also has a full lining and also it has a wet pocket, and you can see that it's looking so nice. If you're ready guys, don't forget to subscribe and let's just get into the video. So the first thing to do is to draft out the basic front bodies and the basic back bodies, which I had done already. For the front block, there are two major alterations, and the first is that I left about 5 inches above before starting the shoulder line all the way down to the hemming line. The second alteration is that I left about 5.5 inches here before starting the actual measurement for the front block. In contrary to the front block, there is no allowance above the shoulder line. There is no allowance starting from the center back like we did for the front block. This 5 inches I left above the shoulder line here is where we are going to use to chalk out our shawl collar. So this 5.5 inches I left starting from the center front all the way here is what we are going to use to shape out our shawl collar. The next thing I will do is I will just fold in this shawl collar allowance. I'll fold it in like this to place our darts. To place our darts, we are going to consider our nipple to nipple measurement. Nipple to nipple measurement of this 8 inches divided by 2, that is 4. I'll mark out 4. So I will mark out the 4 all the way through. Place the darts, mark the dart leg. The dart leg is going to be 4.5 inches above the waistline and also 4.5 inches below the waistline. This will be our major dart leg. The allowance for the dart, we are going to take 1/4 inches on both sides of the waist, connect this line back to the dart leg. Is that we are going to mark out the shoulder dart. For the shoulder dart, we are going to divide this shoulder into 2. This is about 4 inches. 4 divided by 2, that is 2 inches. We'll mark out the 2 inches here, then we'll connect it back into the dart leg. And we are going to cut it starting from the hem. We are going to cut out this shaded portion all the way to the shoulder. Fully aware that we are going to cut out some portions in this place, and it's going to surely alter our allowance for our actual waistline. 4 divided by 4 is 8.5. Then we'll add 0.5 inches allowance. So our bust measurement is still intact. The waist divided by 4 is 7. Place our tape rule like this. Have 3 here. We are going to take our tape rule across this dart, because this place we are still going to cut out this dart. Then having done that, we are going to measure the 7 inches. 7. Then we'll also add 0.5 inches allowance. So at the hemming here, we are going to take our hips measurement at the hem, because this jacket is going to extend all the way to somewhere around the hips, and the hips divided by 4 is 10 plus 0.5 inches allowance. So our hips measurement is still intact, our bust measurement is still intact, only the waist measurement is not intact. Having marked out the dart allowance and the actual measurement for our front bodies, the next thing we are going to do is that we are going to take our back block and we'll place the front pattern like this on the back. The front and the back pattern align with each other. After aligning the front and the back pattern together, the next thing to do is to take this our tracing wheel, and we'll use this tracing wheel to trace out the dart for the front also on the back pattern. After tracing out the dart and the actual measurement for the front pattern also on the back pattern, just take out this front pattern. Use this marker to trace out, to highlight it very well so that it can be so visible also on the back block. So the next thing we are going to do now is to place the length of our shawl collar, and for us to be able to do that, we'll take back block, we'll take it like this, then we'll take our tape rule, our neck measurement for the back from the shoulder line of the back, then we'll go ahead and measure the neckline for the back, So for this we have about 3.5 inches. Since our back neckline is 3.5 inches, we are going to add half-inch seam allowance to join the collar together at the back. So we'll be using 4 inches instead of 3.5 inches. So we'll mark the 4 inches just with a dot like that. I'm just going to draw zigzag line like this for us to know how this neckline is extended outward. We are going to tilt this place with about 1.5 inches like this. We'll tilt it with about 1.5 inches. We'll be considering this to measure our actual 4 inches for the back neckline, and we are doing this so that by the time we join the shawl collar to the back neckline, it's going to relax properly. Only left about 1 inch allowance here, and this will serve for the button rack. So depending on wherever you want the shawl collar to end, if you want it to end somewhere around the bust line, you just take the ruler like this and make it stop here. But if you want it to stop somewhere around the waistline, we'll tilt the ruler like this. And so we are going to draw something like a V, which is going to connect the waistline all the way to the neckline of the front and outward to where we mark for the shawl collar. Draw out this major line for the shawl collar. The next thing we are going to do now is to determine how wide we want the shawl collar to be, and that is totally depending on however you want it to be. If you want to create any form of shape, maybe a zigzag, a curve, you want to curve it, you can do that all around here. So I'll be using about 4 inches. So I'll just mark out the 4 inches all the way through. I'm going to get the midpoint of this very first line we took, and here we have about 20 inches. So this is about 10 inches. I'll chalk out the 10 inches here, and that will determine how I will curve it. This is the major line for the shawl collar, depending on how wide you want the shawl collar to be. But take note, waistline must be thin so that by the time we go up, it's going to form something like a curve, and just draw out the shawl collar. So it depends on any kind of shape you want to achieve. I'm going to take this French curve now and curve out the actual shape I want for this shawl collar. Having curved this out all the way to the midpoint of this first line, the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to measure how the 4 inches I intended to use the shawl collar width to be. I'll measure out the 4 inches here. Then for this place, I actually added extra pattern paper here. You can make yours wider than the 5 inches. You may use the 7 inches so that it can be in excess and you don't have to add extra pattern paper. So I added this pattern paper because this second line I'm going to be drawing out for the shawl collar is going to be 1.5 inches longer than the first one, and we are doing this because this is where we are going to use to fold the shawl collar, and for it to be able to relax, we have to add extra seam allowance. Instead of using 4 here, we're using about 5.5 inches here. Is to measure the 4 inches we intend using here. Then after doing that, I'm going to mark out the 1.5 inches extra allowance. I'm going to connect this line all the way like this. Then having done this is the 4 inches we intend using for the width of the shawl collar. We'll connect this line back into this line, and just like the way it's appearing by the camera. So this particular place is where we're going to join to the back neckline. It's basically how the front pattern is going to be. The next thing I'm going to do is that I'll just add about 1 cm seam allowance to all this place. Curve this lower part of the jacket. To do now is to cut it out. I'm going to cut it all the way like this, cut it all the way to the shawl collar, cut out this place, and I'm also going to cut out the dart. So this is how the front pattern looks like after cutting it out, and this is how we're going to fold, in the shawl collar like this. I'm going to be adding 1 cm seam allowance to all this that side. 1 cm seam allowance is what we're going to use to join these both panels together. So the last alteration we will have for the back pattern is cord by 1 inches around the waistline. The back is not perfectly parallel. The jacket is going to have a very nice finishing. Then we'll connect this 1 inches back to the neckline, and we'll also connect it back to the hemline. So we are going to replace this 1 inches we took here. We'll replace it here, then we'll connect it back to the bust line and also to the hemline. Around the shoulder there is about 1/4 inches, and I also replaced it back to the shoulder line to cut out the back pattern just like the way it's appearing by the camera. I've added 1 cm seam allowance to this side, 1 cm seam allowance to this side, and also 1 cm seam allowance to this side. One pattern, and this is the back pattern. So for each of the pattern, I'll be cutting out 2 2 2 2 for both the front and the back pattern. We'll be cutting out is the sleeve, and for us to cut the sleeve, we have the round sleeve is 12, and I also added 2 inches allowance. Then having done that, I got the midpoint of the 14, so I chalked out the midpoint of the 14 all the way through. I measured out the sleeve cap. The sleeve cap is 4.5 inches. Then I went down also to measure the biggest part of the arm, which is around 8 inches. Then having done that, I measured the full length of the sleeve, which is about 16 inches, and about 1 cm seam allowance to join the lining to the main fabrics of the sleeve. This side is going to be for our front, and this side is going to be for our back. I'm going to draw a slant line starting from the edge here. We are going to connect it back to the sleeve cap, and we'll do the same thing also for the other side. So it's going to be like a triangle. That we are going to take our actual pattern, and this is for the front. We're going to take our tape rule just like the way it's appearing by the camera, and we're going to measure the armhole. We're going to measure the armhole of the front. Armhole of the front, we have about 9.5 inches. Cuff here must be 9.5 inches. Then with our tape rule like this, just like the way it's appearing by the camera, and we are going to get the midpoint of this slant line we draw out. It's about 4.25 inches. We'll chalk out the 4.25 inches. Then I'm going to connect the slopey curve for the front, and I'm just going to use this pencil as a rough sketch. I have about 9 inches after drawing this out, and that will be fine for the armhole, because by the time we join the shoulder and by the time we join the side of the top, it's still going to reduce from 9.5 to somewhere around 9 inches. So this 9 inches is going to be fine for the front, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my marker and use it to draw it out well. If you have something that is more bigger or more lesser, you can just use your pencil to redraw it, and you are going to get the perfect one for you, just like we did for the front, to measure out the armhole for the back. Back we have about 8.5 inches. The midpoint of this place as well, around 4.25. From the midpoint of this place of the back, is not going to come inward as much as we did for the front, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my pencil to draw out the slope for the back. About 8.5 after measuring it. I'm going to reduce this back by about 0.5 inches. The midpoint, the round sleeve is about 12 inches, and I'm just going to place the 12 inches plus 1 cm seam allowance. and I'm going to use this line as a guideline. And the round sleeve of the hem is 11 inches, and I'm just going to place the measurement as well. I'm going to connect everything back to the shoulder slope. This is our front and this is our back, and the back is shorter than the front is because the front has a very sharp curve, and that's why the armhole for the front is quite longer than that for the back. Cut it out, and I'll place it on the fabrics to cut out the fabrics and a piece of main fabrics for the sleeve, and I'm also going to cut out the lining. These are the patterns and the fabrics after cutting them. So this is for the center back, and for the center back I used the main fabrics. I cut out 2 pieces of the main fabrics, cut out 2 pieces of lining, and I also added an interfacing to the lining. Center front, I cut out 2 pieces of main fabrics, but also for the lining of the center front I won't be using the normal lining. I'll be using these Ankara fabrics to turn it, and that is because the center front is going to be appearing outward, fills all the part. For the welt pocket, I cut out 2 pieces of fabrics, and for the first one we have about 3 inches and the second one is 12 inches. Then I launched the center of both fabrics and added stay. So the stay is about a length of about 6.5 inches. I added a stay of about 6.5 inches, and for the length is 8.5. So this is what we'll be using to stitch out our welt pocket, and when we get to the sewing machine you will understand better. So we are done basically with all the cutting, and the next thing for us to do is to get on the sewing machine and stitch everything down. So for the sewing, I'm going to start by taking one side of the center front, and one side of the side front. So using just the one seam we left for the seam allowance, I'm going to join it all the way through, and I'm also going to join the second side of the center front also with the side front, just like the way it's appearing by the camera. After joining the center front to the side front, the next thing to decide is where you want to place the welt pocket. And for this welt pocket, we'll take our tape rule starting from our shoulder line. Remember, this is our shoulder line and this place is the shawl collar. So we'll take our tape rule like this. The waistline is 14.5 inches. Then we'll come down by 1 inches after the waistline. Then we'll mark it out. In which we mark out is where the welt pocket is going to sit. Take the bigger part of the welt pocket, face towards the hem of the jacket, then we'll open it up, and we'll also take the smaller parts of the welt pocket, then we'll place it just like the way it's appearing by the camera. So after aligning the center of the welt pocket with the dart, the next thing for us to do is to mark out the inches we want to use for the width of the welt pocket. So for the width, we'll be using 5 inches. We'll take 2.5 inches here, and we'll also take 2.5 inches across the center. Also mark the same thing for the second one, 2.5 inches here and 2.5 inches also by this side. Then the next thing for us to do is to stitch it down, and we'll stitch it down with just about 1 cm. We want the stitching starting from here. We'll reverse it so that it's not going to pull out. Then we'll stitch it all the way to this place. We'll reverse it and we'll also stitch this upper part. Take note, and this is how the back looks like. So for the back, I opened the dart for me to be able to stitch it because this place is going to be an open seam. So the next thing for us to do now is we are going to fold it like this. Folding it like this. We are going to take our scissors and we are going to run, and we are going to open it up here. We'll open it up like this. Not up to the place in which the stitching is ending, about half seam before getting to the actual place we end the stitching. Done that, the next thing we'll do, we'll take our scissors and we are going to make a slant line like this. Make a slant line like this. And we are going to make something like a V line. So after doing that, the next thing we are going to do, we'll take this wet pocket and we are going to pass it inwards through the hole. So after making sure that it's properly relaxed, just like the way it appeared by the camera, we are going to take this lower part of the wet pocket. We are going to fold up this lower part of the wet pocket and ensure that it's covering this opening, just like the way it's appearing by the camera. Our hand to hold it down. Then we'll open up this place. We'll open it up like this. So after opening it up like this, we are going to make sure that it's properly aligned here. Then having done that, we are going to run a direct stitch just here. We are going to run a direct stitch here to secure the pocket with the main fabrics. So just like the way we stitched the lower part of the wet pocket to the main fabrics, we are going to open up this one as well, and we are going to run a direct stitch here. Open it up like this. We're going to run a direct stitch just here at the V shape we cut out the other time. So run a direct stitch like this and secure it also with the wet pocket. The next thing for us to do is to take the lower part of the wet pocket and make it meet the upper part here. We are going to join the lower part of the wet pocket with the upper part using about 1 cm. So the last thing we are going to do is to finish up the side of the wet pocket, and for us to do that, starting from the last place we stitched here, then we'll measure about 1 inches. That's 1 inches we need. I'm just going to cut out these excesses. The last thing we are going to do is to fold this place in. We can take out this thing, and I'm going to cut it out as well. It does not make this place too bulgy. So the next thing for us to do is to fold in like this. Fold this in like this. Fold it like this. I'm just going to run a straight stitch all the way down to finish the wet pocket up. Front part of the wet pocket looks like, and you can see that it's looking so good. So this is where the hand will stay. Next thing to join after that is the center back and the side back together. Back looks like after joining this, and I've joined all the 4 panels of the back together. I've joined the side to the 2 center back and also the other side. Next thing for us to do, we are going to take the front panel in which we have joined the side front to the center front the other time. Side of both panels of the front face each other. Then having done that, we are in this place. We are going to join the shawl collar together. Then after joining the shawl collar together, take note, this is where the shoulder is. The right side of the back face the right side of the front, and we are going to make the shoulder align to each other, seam for seam and the joining for joining. Then take note, this place is an open seam. You can use your hand to open it up and later press it. We are going to start stitching starting from here, and we are going to stitch it all the way to the shawl collar. So after joining the shawl collar to the back, this is how it looks like. This is the shoulder. and this is where the shawl collar is sitting. It's sitting all round, and I've joined back the shoulder as well. Shawl collar together. I placed launches on the curvy part so that it will be able to relax very well by the time we turn it to the other hand. So I joined the main bodies of this front. I'm going to do the same thing for the inner. I'm just going to join everything all round as well. Also join the lining the same way. Next thing I'll be doing now is just to join the side. I'll join the side, so I'll be joining the right side and the left side of both the main fabrics and the lining. This is what we have. I'm going to take the lining just like the way it's appearing by the camera, and we're going to align the lining with the main fabrics. We'll make sure they are properly aligned. We'll use an office pin to pin them together. Also, I ensure that both seams are aligning with each other, and all the way around I just use my pin to secure it all the way into the shawl collar and all round. The next thing for us to do now is to sew this all round using just the 1 cm seam allowance we left. So I'm going to stitch all the sides, going to stitch it all the way, stitch it on into the hem, stitch it all along into the shawl collar. So I'm just going to stitch everything using just 1 cm, just like the way it's appearing by the camera. So after turning it outward, this is how it looks like, and this is our shawl collar, and you can see that it's looking all good and nice. So the next thing I'll be doing now is to work on the sleeve. What to do now is to turn the sleeve, and I'll be using the lining to turn the sleeve. For us to attach the sleeve to the armhole, the first thing you're going to do is to join the lining and the sleeve together like this using just 1 cm. We'll join it here by the end. Then having done that, the next thing to do is to open up the sleeve like this. Then we'll fold back the sleeve, we'll fold it like this. Then after folding it like this, we'll use about 1 cm also to join all this way of the sleeve. We'll join it all the way into the lining. After joining it using just 1 cm, the next thing to do is to open up the main fabrics and the lining together. So this is how the lining will sit inside the sleeve. Then having done just to attach the sleeve to the armhole, the first thing to do is that place we launch here. Remember this is the front we shaped out the other time. I'm going to take this my main fabrics, then put it at the center of the shoulder. Then having done that I'm just going to use my hand to do a rough estimate to make sure that it is properly aligned to each other. So you can see that this is properly aligned. If it's not properly aligned enough, you may just have to take some measurements by the arm that maybe you did not hold it very well. So this is properly aligning, and the next thing for me to do now is I'm just taking the main fabrics. I'm also going to the same thing we did for the main fabrics. I'll also take this lining like this, and I'm also going to attach it to the lining of the sleeve. Then after doing that, I'm going to pull it out of this hole that we left here. So I've joined the first sleeve. This is the fourth sleeve, and this is how the inner looks like. And you can see that it's having a very nice finishing, so there will be no joining at all outside. I'm going to go to the sewing machine now and stitch down this main fabrics with the armhole, then also the lining for the lining. So this is how it looks like when I'm done fixing the sleeve. Like you can see, lining for lining, then the main fabric for the main fabrics, and there is no joining outside. And you can see that it's having a very nice finishing. So the next thing we are going to do now is to close up this place in which we pass the sleeve outward, and I'm just going to use needle and thread to finish that up. So this is how it looks like. So So this is how the inner part of the jacket looks like. And also for the waistline, tack the button, and I also make a button opening here, so it's going to be inclined like this. And this is how the jacket looks like. So you can just do well to use your iron to press out this shock collar very well and make it sit very nice. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Please, in case you have not subscribed, do well to subscribe for more better tutorial, and subscription is free. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.